Jane's own text messages to show she willingly took part in Combs' sex life.
One of the rapper's ex-girlfriends. Now, the defense questioning the woman testifying under the pseudonym Jane about the period of time says that she flew with another famous rapper.
Diddy erupts in court after key witness Jane blocked from testifying. Mysterious outside interference sparks chaos. Tensions reached a breaking point in court today as Sean Diddy Combs faced an unthinkable twist in his already explosive legal battle. Just as the most anticipated witness, known only as Jane, was set to take the stand, everything came crashing down. Her testimony, described by insiders as potentially case-destroying for Diddy's defense, was suddenly delayed. No warning, no explanation. But here's where it gets sinister. Sources close to the case are whispering about a mysterious outside force interfering. No one's naming names, but the courtroom felt it. The prosecution looked stunned. The defense? Rattled. And Diddy? He lost it. Eyewitnesses say he erupted, shouting in court, visibly shaken, caught completely off guard. The man once known for controlling every room now seemed to be spiraling as the reality sank in. Someone doesn't want Jane to speak. So the questions multiply. Who is pulling the strings to keep Jane silent? What exactly does she know that's so explosive? And why is the system suddenly working to delay, or bury, her voice? Legal experts warn this could be more than courtroom drama. It might be an intentional act of obstruction. And the longer Jane is kept off the stand, the more people are asking. What are they so afraid she'll say? Stay tuned. Because if Jane does speak, and if she says what we think she will, this trial might not just end careers. It could blow the lid off an entire empire.
Jane's own text messages to show she willingly took part in Combs' sex life and is not the victim of force or coercion. At one point, she cried so hard on the witness stand she couldn't even finish reading those texts. Now the prosecution says they expect to rest their case next week.
That we saw from earlier in the day about whether or not non-alleged victims could testify under a pseudonym, I think around this idea of this Las Vegas trip. And now, coming back out of the lunch break, we continue with more testimony from Jane, talking about that June 2024 incident that involved violence, where the defense got out and Jane has admitted that she initiated violence, but Sean Combs continued with that violence, leaving her with a black eye and as well a bruise to her face. They're also talking about that same interaction later on in the day, Sean Combs going through her phone and realizing that Anton, one of the entertainers, had said they had a mutual friend. Sean Combs suggesting and saying, you don't have a mutual friend. And that's when it devolved into a point where the information about Jane going to this Las Vegas trip came out, and Sean Combs is quoted by Tenny Garagos as saying, you went to another man's freak-off?
The day everything changed, Jane's name shakes Diddy trial to the core. The moment the name Jane appeared in sealed court filings, the entire trajectory of the Diddy trial shifted. Up until that point, the proceedings against Sean Diddy Combs had already been volatile, filled with bombshell allegations, federal raids, and round-the-clock media coverage. But once prosecutors confirmed that a protected witness known only as Jane would take the stand in Week 5, one word started circulating behind the scenes. Explosive. This wasn't just another twist in a celebrity downfall. This was something else, something bigger. Who is Jane? Jane's identity remains sealed. But court insiders and legal analysts agree on one thing. She wasn't a fringe figure. She wasn't a distant accuser. She was there, close to Diddy, inside the world of Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises, and the circles where power was currency, and silence was survival. Filings from the Southern District of New York alleged Jane had first-hand knowledge of operational practices inside Diddy's empire, phrasing that raised immediate red flags. This wasn't just about parties, contracts, or celebrity gossip. This was about how misconduct may have been normalized, how influence might have been weaponized, and how powerful people allegedly protected each other. All of it, potentially revealed by one voice. And then, nothing. The silence heard around the world. As the media camped outside the courthouse and online speculation hit fever pitch, Jane's long-anticipated appearance was suddenly cancelled. The courtroom was stunned. The judge issued a mysterious declaration, citing unexpected third-party complications. No further explanation. No transparency. Just a void. Inside the courtroom, Diddy cracked. Multiple journalists, from Rolling Stone to NBC News, confirmed that the mogul erupted in fury, standing abruptly, arguing with his legal team, and reportedly slamming his hand on the defense table. The composed power player of day one was gone. In his place, a man visibly unraveling under pressure. Courtroom sketch artists captured the moment, jaw clenched, back stiff, eyes burning with disbelief. Jane hadn't even spoken yet, and still, her absence spoke volumes. What happens now? Why was her testimony pulled? Who, or what, intervened? And most crucially, what truth is so dangerous that someone doesn't want it told? This trial is no longer just about Sean Combs. It's about power, protection, and the price of silence in an industry built on image and influence. With federal investigations still ongoing, and more witnesses set to testify in the weeks ahead, including former employees and inner circle members, the pressure is building fast. The world is watching. And Jane's voice, silenced for now, still echoes.
The entertainer came to the where they were, had another interaction that didn't go as far as intercourse, but still involved drugs, and there seemed to be a dissolution of this relationship.
And they were specifically discussing an issue from 2024 when Jane testified that she flew to Las Vegas with a friend of hers who's a famous rapper and then went to a hotel room where she saw a male escort named Anton having sex with a woman while that rapper and his girlfriend watched. She testified that that escort was somebody that she previously had a hotel night with along with Combs. The prosecution, though, wants to keep those pseudonyms, and they say that sufficient information about that event specifically and about Jane have been disclosed. Non-alleged victims who take the stand can use pseudonyms. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo argued that they should go on the record with their real name so that when someone hears about testimony who's outside of the trial and they might have information about that testimony, that they can come forward and offer to testify.
What this means going forward is essentially the defense is lodging this idea. Trials are supposed to be public. They are open to everyone to come and see. And the reason historically has been so that information can be gotten from anyone who knows about it. Now, they're arguing that this is an infringement on Jane's privacy because these are people that she's connected to and events that she participated in. The defense is rebutting that, though. They want these names to be public because what they're saying is if there is some information out there that could either be used to impeach her or discredit some of the testimony that is being given, that they want those people to come forward. So this could change the dynamic and the credibility of her if they come forward.
Silenced, the chilling mystery behind Jane's vanishing testimony in the Diddy trial. Behind the carefully choreographed courtroom sessions, whispers grew louder. Whispers of interference, intimidation, maybe even threats. As Jane, the pseudonymous, highly anticipated witness, was suddenly yanked from the witness list just days before taking the stand, the silence raised more questions than any testimony could have. And now, sources suggest that silence may not have been voluntary. According to reports surfacing from legal insiders and court observers, Jane may have been pressured into silence. Some close to the case suspect a warning was delivered, a message, or something far darker. One unnamed source told the Daily Beast that Jane's legal team requested an emergency, closed-door meeting with the judge, just 72 hours before her scheduled appearance. The contents of that meeting remain sealed. But what followed was unmistakable. Jane's name disappeared from the docket. The prosecution went quiet. And Diddy's reaction in court? Explosive. His team, reportedly blindsided by the cancellation, quickly pivoted behind the scenes. A pattern we've seen before. What makes this even more disturbing is the precedent. Cases involving powerful, wealthy men, from Jeffrey Epstein to Harvey Weinstein and R. Kelly, have shown us what happens when witnesses hold too much truth. They are silenced. They are discredited. They are attacked, in courtrooms, in tabloids, and in life. According to a New York Post source, federal authorities are actively monitoring potential witness interference in the Combs case. While no names were listed, the timing of Jane's sudden silence has triggered deep concern among legal observers. Why Jane's testimony was so dangerous? Jane isn't just another witness. She is, by all accounts, a threat to the empire. Her attorneys have stated that she possesses audio recordings, digital communications, texts, emails, and potentially surveillance footage that align with evidence already submitted by prosecutors. This would place her testimony at the intersection of three damning threads: romantic abuse and coercion, highlighted in Cassie Ventura's lawsuit; corporate control and internal enablers; and, most critically, the manipulation of legal systems to suppress accountability. Unlike prior witnesses, Jane wasn't on the sidelines. She was, according to sources, in the room, deeply embedded within Diddy's business and personal inner circle. Her insights aren't second-hand. They are operational. A legal strategy in flux. Early on, Diddy's legal team painted the lawsuits as opportunistic, cash grabs amplified by media frenzy. They leaned into his decades of success, philanthropy, and influence. But that narrative began to crack as more women came forward, filing civil suits between November 2023 and April 2024, and as evidence mounted. Then came the Cassie effect. Her 2023 lawsuit may have been settled, but the stories she unleashed still echo through the case. Jane's testimony was poised to be the third rail. Not just allegations. Not just trauma. But institutional cover-up. What comes next? Jane's silence won't stay silent forever. If the prosecution's evidence aligns with what Jane allegedly holds, it could still be introduced. Federal investigators are also reportedly expanding their scope, looking not just at Diddy, but at those around him. The fixers, the lawyers, the insiders who may have helped him evade accountability for years. This isn't just about one man anymore. It's about a system of protection woven into the fabric of entertainment, money, and influence, a system Jane may be the first to fully expose. If she ever gets to speak.
He appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings. So here's what came out of today's hearing. Number one, the government acknowledged that they offered Combs a plea deal. Combs acknowledged he has no interest in taking that. They're going to move forward with the trial. They also talked about the jury selection process, which one legal expert I spoke to said is probably the most important thing that you want to pay close attention to before the actual trial starts. And thirdly, we learned that Combs will be adding 2 new attorneys to his defense team.
We're expected to hear from personal assistants and chefs, things like that, to Diddy, and whether or not they are sort of victims as well as co-conspirators. That'll be maybe a fine line to draw, but certainly with information about drug use. Remember, we heard about that potential arson, obstruction of justice. Remember, those are more of the elements involved in this racketeering conspiracy that the government really hasn't gotten on the table yet, and I would expect we would hear this week. Yeah, Chanel, it's looking more and more like that testimony will not be thrown out. Obviously, last week was all about the star witness, Cassie Ventura, star victim, I should say. She's victim number 1 in that government indictment. But the testimony from Dawn Richard was meant to corroborate some of Cassie's abuse. And part of that corroboration was an incident that she testified about when Diddy actually, she alleged, hit Cassie with a skillet. She was making eggs. He got, enraged and hit her with a skillet. Now, she also testified that thereafter, Diddy told her that people who spoke about these types of things tend to disappear, and that she took that as a threat on her life. The defense attorneys, rightfully so, objected to a lot of this testimony, saying much of it was hearsay. In trials, there are very strict rules of evidence. The judge is concerned that a lot of these now corroborating witnesses may be veering into hearsay, gossip. You only want witnesses to testify, and they're only allowed to testify to things that they directly saw or heard. So that's part of this objection, as well as this statement that Diddy apparently made to her. We're already seeing the defense today really try to get into those inconsistencies in Richard's testimony about whether did she actually witness this abuse or did she just see perhaps the aftermath of it. So that's kind of the issue here. The issue is the scope of the testimony. It does seem that the judge is going to allow that testimony to stand on Friday, but going into more of this testimony today, there may be a sort of a tighter scope around what they can testify to.
Microphone # the Diddy trial just took a dark turn, and Jane's silence says everything. The pattern is tragically familiar. Celebrity abuse allegations trigger initial outrage, followed by denials, delays, and eventually, silence. But this case isn't following the usual script. It's breaking it. With federal raids, FBI involvement, and DHS search warrants executed on multiple Diddy-owned properties, this trial is no longer just a courtroom drama. It's a federal investigation with explosive stakes. And now, with Jane, the most anticipated witness, vanishing before she could testify, public suspicion has gone nuclear. Legal analyst Lisa Green told MSNBC, "If a protected witness is being blocked through intimidation or coercion, it's not just alarming. It's obstruction of justice, and it could collapse Diddy's entire defense." But this isn't just about legal strategies anymore. This is about fear, power, and silence. Explosion symbol the cultural reckoning. Outside the courtroom, the world is no longer patient. Protesters hold signs reading "Let Jane Speak" and "Protect Survivors, Not Celebrities." On TikTok, X, and Instagram, hashtags like #JusticeForJane, #DiddyTrial, and #WhoSilencedJane are pulling in millions. Former Bad Boy insiders are leaking cryptic details. Anonymous sources say Jane was closer than anyone expected. If true, her testimony could blow open the internal operations of Combs Enterprises and expose a culture allegedly built on control and fear. Clock #time's running out. As week 5 of the trial ends, Diddy's team is scrambling. His courtroom outburst when Jane was pulled? That wasn't anger, it was panic. The world saw it. He knows what she could say. And now, so do we. Fire, so I'll ask you. Black ? Ornament, is Jane being silenced by Diddy, or by something even bigger than him? Black ? Ornament, is this about one man, or is this the tip of an industry-wide cover-up? White down pointing backhand index, drop your theories in the comments. I'm reading everything. Bell, like, share, and hit subscribe, because the next twist? It might be the one that changes everything.